What's up, LEGO builders? Well, this is it, the final update before the showcase of Project Stormwall, my massive LEGO mech. In this episode, we'll see how likely it is that I actually hit 2 feet tall, and more importantly, I'll be finishing the torso so we can get a really good idea of what this monster is going to look like. And at some point, I'm just going to stop working on the mech to build a futuristic fighter jet because that title isn't clickbait. I'm going to be all over the place today, so make sure to lock in, open fire on that like button, and let's get building. I can't believe this is it. It's finally the update to finish building the front of the torso. I've been talking about designing it, but have only done a couple things here and there and haven't really fully dived into it yet, distracting myself with the backside and its fuel tanks or making the head. But the excuses are gone, and now it's time to build what I've been putting off. I think the two best options for covering and shaping the front are brick and plate. I'm going to build a pillar of 1x and 2x brick running up to the bottom of the shoulders. This will act as sort of a base, and then I can connect a series of panels on top of the brick, smoothing out the blocky corners and giving the torso a rounder, more humanoid appearance. But as is the case when placing a bunch of large plate-based panels, there are sometimes gaps and spaces around some of the edges. So the pillars of brick behind should make those less noticeable and prevent us from seeing into the actual mech from certain angles, just like with a suit of armor where you can see parts of the body beneath the smooth armored plates. I think I'll have the most success with this method by making a series of smaller panels instead of 2 or 3 large ones, starting with 3 abdomen plates that will cover the flat portion of the torso just above where it connects to the hips. There's a large piece of armor that rises up above the hips and covers a little of the abdomen area, and I don't want to get in the way of that. This next plate is going to be much bigger because it's essentially the chest plate and needs to cover a large surface area that is mostly flat. It's going to sit just under the head, so the bigger I make this, the better I can cover up the connection point between the head and body, making it look like it's solidly fused together. That leaves just the sides of the torso, but these will be arguably the toughest to make because they'll cover from just above the waist all the way up to the tops of the shoulders, making them the biggest panels on the mech. This next little build is going to feel like Christmas morning for those wanting more weapon systems on the mech. I wanted to include a series of small machine guns placed throughout the build for picking off targets that manage to get past this mech's escort force or its fearsome main weapons. Just like how the mighty battleships of World War II were bristling with smaller machine guns, I want this to have lots of options for defending itself at a close range. Now I'm building smaller subpanels that will connect to the larger one I just finished. These are going to wrap up and around the head, hopefully giving it the appearance of a jacked Mr. Olympia winner and better sealing off the head area. I want that to stay at its current downward facing angle, so I can't attach panels to it, and I can really only connect it at one point, and I can really only connect it to the body via hinges, so the more I can cover up that area, the better. Plus, giving this a neck would immediately cause it to lose all its menacing aura. Once those subpanels are connected, I can secure the massive side panels in place. Those were such a pain to attach, though I must admit it was largely due to a hinge piece that I stuck in the wrong spot, aka a skill issue. I was unable to complete the shoulders until the front was done because I needed to know how those frontal panels would lead up and connect with the shoulders, so with that out of the way, the path forward is a little bit clearer. I essentially just need to build a socket area that can connect to the large weapons that are the arms and also meet up with the frontal plates. I do want this area to flare out from the body a bit, just like the lat muscles on the side and back of a human. That way the guns are spaced out a bit from the body and it'll just look really cool. From there, I proceeded to slope the shoulders upwards further, and you would think that this should be the top of the mech, right? Not in this case. I plan on housing something very fun at the top of the mech above the head, but more on that at the end of the video. I'd be a liar if I said I didn't do a little celebrating after seeing the torso like this. It honestly looks better than I hoped it would, and it was so cool seeing all the different panels fit together, revealing the design. It was like I was discovering the mech one section at a time, finishing an armored plate, then molding the next one to fit it without much of an idea of what the finished mock would look like, but trusting everything would come together in the end. I really wanted to represent the beefy mechs I love to build, and this is definitely an HADF war machine. It was really fun finally getting to add weapons, and these belt-fed remotely operated machine guns have excellent mobility, though with the firepower this mech will bring to bear, I doubt much will stumble into the range of these guns, but better safe than sorry. Who would have guessed I'd be taking a break from the 2-foot-tall mech to build aircraft of all things, but that's what's happening next. A while back, I built a little sci-fi fighter called the Piranha. It was a fun pocket-sized build, and I knew I eventually wanted to build something similar for the HADF faction, who were the ones building Project Stormwall, the 2-foot-tall mech. Then, while thinking of fun things to add to the mech, I had the idea to build said fighter and attach 1 or 2 to the mech as like a small emergency air defense force. Another similarity to the large battleships of yestercentury that had planes planes that could be launched from the back. I also found this humorous because a certain viewer named Imperial Collections has been asking for a walking aircraft carrier for almost as long as I have been making the world of Kofera. I had no intentions of ever creating such a vehicle, and now here I am unintentionally building a walking aircraft of sorts. Either that's a coincidence, or Imperial Collections has the persuasive powers of Darth Sidious. I want this ship to look like it was inspired by the Piranha, but built by a completely different group. The HADF aren't quite as advanced as the creators of the Piranha, the FPSC, so this ship's going to be a little bigger and require more wings. I don't know if you've ever played or seen the game Subnautica 2, but it takes place in an alien ocean teeming with all kinds of crazy fish, plants, and bowel evacuating monsters. One fish in particular is called the Four-Eye. It's actually two fish that have evolved to live connected together, creating a really sci-fi-esque appearance with their 4 larger and 4 smaller wings jutting out from the body. I want to create a similar design by giving this ship 3 different sets of wings to help it zip through the air and maneuver in ways previously unheard of. Of course, it's not much of a military fighter without weapons, so I'm lining the underside with a deadly array of guns and missiles that can be swapped out for different kinds of missions. And landing gear will make sure all that fun stuff doesn't get crushed when the ship lands. Everything's done except for the cockpit windshield. I have multiple different options here, and even though it's just different colors of the same piece, they really change the look of the ship. I think the best looking route is the dark green option. It obviously matches the ship and gives it a mysterious, ominous vibe that will make this craft all the more terrifying and help it live up to its name. Desperate to counter the near constant threat of an aerial Piranha attack, the HADF scientists have been hard at work designing the future of military attack craft. Going up against both the Piranha and Manta over the past almost 2 years has given the HADF a masterclass on futuristic aircraft anatomy and propulsion. Now they're ready to unveil the AAC-1 Wraith. Quiet, fast, and armed with guns and missiles, this has completely leveled the playing field, and though it requires more stabilizing fins than its competitor, the Piranha, the Wraith's only other major weakness is the inexperience of its pilots, who will close the gap after every new battle. Now it's time to bring the title of the video to fruition. Keeping the back mostly flat has given me a good spot to secure a ship. I might build a little attachment point to more realistically attach it, but for now, the Wraith can directly connect to the 2 long dark green slopes. Those act as a sling or catapult, shooting directly up and launching the ship into the air, giving it a little boost before the thrusters kick in. It's not the most advanced or safe system, and the pilot's just gonna have to chill in the ship the entire time, but this is the HADF's first time building a vehicle of this scale and attaching aircraft, so there's bound to be a big learning curve while all this gets figured out. I was also thinking of doing a 2-ship configuration with 1 on each side of the mech, or maybe having 2 stacked on the back like this. Let me know in the comments which of these ideas you like best. While I ponder on what configuration of ships will work the best for the back of the mech, it's time I explained what I was talking about earlier in reference to the top of the mech. I said I had something really fun planned, and it's time to see how not fun it'll be to try and design it. I wanted to add large missile launchers with opening hatches to the mech somewhere, and had the thought to build a couple of towers that sit above the head, since there's a large open space up there and I don't have any current plans for it. This whole idea came about while I was designing a gunship a while back. I used this trapdoor piece for the side doors and thought it would be cool to have some kind of launcher that could extend and retract missile tubes through the opening and have a closing hatch so they're covered and hidden from sight when not in use. Plus, this sounded like a fun play feature. Who doesn't love surprise missiles? What I'm building may look skeletal and very unfinished, and that's because I want to figure out the mechanics of sliding the missile tubes in and out of the hatch before I worry about the final design. I don't want to waste time completing a build just to have to take it apart and rebuild it 30 times while I figure out the inner moving parts, which is essentially what happened. This main piece is going to be the missile tube housing. It's a simple cube with the end being where the cool stuff lies. This mech can obviously pack a serious punch, so I'm using 2x2 round bricks to make beefy missile tubes capable of launching a serious payload. I built 2 towers, each with a trapdoor that'll hold 4 missiles all sitting above the head. To cover up the rather dingy looking structure I built, I'm constructing a couple of side panels, one for each end of the missile towers. They don't need to be too crazy, just matching the curve of the slopes and of course sporting a couple dark green Lego shield tiles as highlights. If there ever was a time to use the phrase putting the cherry on top, I think it's here. The 2 missile pods look like massive horns crowning this behemoth, and I'm really glad I was able to fit some missiles on the mech somehow. I knew there wouldn't be space for any on the body, and I didn't want to build a generic box of small missiles perched atop the shoulders, so having them pop out of hatchways like cannons on a pirate ship felt like a fun new twist on a classic mech weapon. Plus, it's also fun to sneak a little play feature in here and there when I can. There is one problem. The doors don't fully open and will get in the way of plating off this area, so I will need to do some adjusting up here, but that will only make this even taller. As of right now, the mech stands at just over 23 inches tall, which is crazy. At the beginning of the series, I didn't think a 2-foot tall mech was even possible, and now here we are less than an inch away from my goal. It's not time to party yet though. Job's not finished. I need to complete the top of the build, and it would appear the mech still only has one arm, but I had to leave some surprises for the finale. This is the last update video before the big reveal, so share this video around and get excited, because not only will you be seeing Project Stormwall in its completed glory, but the giant hangar where it was constructed. That video will hopefully drop sometime next month, but that's a wrap for today, and until next time, happy building.